How would you like to meet an animal whose heart weighs as much as a car? Or observe a creature capable of shaking the ground beneath its feet like a living earthquake? Dear traveler, welcome. Today we're off to the fascinating world of the giants that populate our planet today. From the African savanna to the abyssal depths of the oceans, the Earth is still home to colossi that defy our imagination. These modern titans, survivors of a time when megafauna reigned supreme, continue to amaze us with their impressive size and unrivaled power. They are living witnesses to the incredible diversity of life on Earth and the wonders that evolution has fashioned over the millennia. But before you set off on your next adventure, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. Thank you and have a great trip! Let's begin our journey with the most massive creatures that roam our terra firma. Certain terrestrial mastodons, veritable colossi of flesh and bone, are the first to make us aware of the immensity of nature. Their imposing presence has interfered with the landscape as much as it has captivated our imagination for millennia. Among these creatures, three stand out for their exceptional corpulence and impact on their environment: the African elephant, the white rhinoceros, and the hippopotamus. These monumental species are remarkable not only for their size, but also for their intelligence, social complexity, and crucial role in the ecosystems they dominate. Let's begin our expedition by getting up close to the most imposing of them all, the African elephant. Imagine coming face to face with one of these specimens whose shadow alone could darken a two-story house. Impressive, isn't it? The African elephant is a veritable living titan. A male elephant can reach a staggering height of 4 meters or 13 feet at the withers and weigh up to 8 tons, the equivalent of 3 cars stacked on top of each other. Its fan-like ears can measure up to 1.8 meters or 6 feet long, the size of an adult human being. But the most striking feature is undoubtedly its proboscis. This extraordinary organ, a fusion of nose and upper lip, contains over 40,000 muscles and can lift objects weighing up to 350 kilograms or 770 pounds. No other creature is capable of such a feat. 2 ivory tusks crown this imposing silhouette. Reaching an impressive length of 3 meters or 10 feet and weighing up to 100 kilograms or 220 pounds each, they symbolize the magnificence of this extraordinary creature. True multi-purpose tools for digging, lifting, and even defending themselves, they are unfortunately coveted by poachers, who thus greatly threaten the survival of these prodigious creatures. These gray giants roam the vast expanses of sub-Saharan Africa, from grassy savannas to dense forests and deserts. Their adaptability is remarkable, enabling them to survive in these varied environments, whether in scorching heat or in the cool of the mountains. The social life of elephants is fascinating. They live in matriarchal herds led by the oldest and most experienced female, called the matriarch. This complex social system relies on sophisticated communication. This involves a wide range of vocalizations. Some, so low in frequency, are inaudible to the human ear, but can be heard by other elephants for miles around. In terms of diet, elephants have a relatively varied diet. It consists of grasses, leaves, bark, fruit, and even roots, which they dig up with their tusks. Almost insatiable, these giants are veritable devouring machines. An adult elephant alone can consume up to 150 kilograms or 330 pounds of food and drink 190 liters of water a day. Not surprisingly, the elephant's interactions with their environment are equally impressive. With such quantities ingested, they literally modify their habitat. In fact, elephants are often considered the engineers of their ecosystem. By felling trees for food, they create clearings that benefit other species. As for their enormous footprints left in the ground filled with rainwater, these become microhabitats for small organisms. But how and why did such a massive species come into being? The existence of such a gigantic creature is the result of millions of years of evolution. Elephants' disproportionate size gives them several advantages. Firstly, it protects them from most predators. Few carnivores would dare attack a healthy adult. What's more, their large size enables them to cover vast distances. This is a crucial advantage when searching for sustenance on the immense arid plains of Africa. Last but not least, their voluminous brains, the largest of any land animal, give them remarkable intelligence and exceptional memory. Elephants can easily find their various sources of food and water in the vast territories they cover. But their size is also linked to their longevity. With a life expectancy of up to 70 years in their natural element, elephants have time to accumulate crucial knowledge about their environment, which they pass on to subsequent generations. However, being so massive also presents challenges. To maintain such body mass, elephants must spend most of their time feeding. Their metabolism, paradoxically slow for their size, helps them conserve the energy they need to survive in an environment where resources can be scarce. The mass of the African elephant is far from being a simple coincidence of evolution. It's the result of a complex balance between the advantages of physical power and the challenges of survival, particularly in an unfriendly environment. In the African savanna, another marvel of nature with a unique silhouette and skin as thick as armor attracts our attention. This is the white rhinoceros, the second largest land mammal, whose massive presence and iconic horn make it a veritable living tank. This behemoth, with its prehistoric silhouette, seems to have come straight out of another era, and with good reason. Its ancestors roamed the plains millions of years ago. As you can see, and contrary to what its name suggests, the white rhinoceros is not white. Its color is actually slate gray, just like its cousin the black rhinoceros. The origin of its name comes from a mistranslation of the Afrikaans word wijd, meaning large, in reference to its wide grazing mouth. This linguistic confusion gave rise to the name white in English. The main difference between the two species lies in the shape of their mouths. The white rhinoceros has a wide, flattened upper lip, perfect for grazing on short grass. The black rhinoceros, on the other hand, has a prehensile lip in the shape of a beak, ideal for grasping leaves and branches. Above all, the white rhinoceros is considerably larger than its black cousin. Measuring 1.8 meters or 6 feet high at the shoulder, it can weigh up to 2.3 tons, the weight of an SUV. A veritable walking fortress, the white rhinoceros has a skin up to 5 centimeters or 2 inches thick. This natural armor is so tough that even rifle bullets have trouble piercing it. This skin, though impressively rigid, is sensitive to sunlight and parasites. This is why rhinos like to roll around in the mud to protect themselves from these external aggressions. But let's talk about its most emblematic attribute, its horn, or rather its horns, because in reality the white rhinoceros has 2. The largest, located at the front of the snout, can reach a staggering length of 1.5 meters or 5 feet. Contrary to popular belief, these horns are neither bone nor ivory. Like our fingernails, they're actually made of keratin. These attributes, beyond being decorative, are used to dig the ground for water and clear bushes. Of course, they are also formidable defensive weapons. Reaching 50 kilometers per hour, or 30 miles per hour, over a short distance, a charging rhinoceros is a force of nature that few opponents dare challenge. On the other hand, the white rhinoceros has rather poor eyesight. It makes up for this with an exceptional sense of smell and hearing, capable of detecting odors and picking up sounds from miles away. In the murky waters of Africa's rivers reigns another equally impressive colossus, the hippopotamus. This massive creature, with its deceptively plump silhouette, conceals formidable power and aggression. The hippopotamus, whose name means river horse in ancient Greek, is far from a placid equine. It's a semi-aquatic titan that can reach a staggering 1.8 tons for females and up to 3 tons for the most imposing males. To get an idea of the power of such a creature, imagine a medium-sized SUV with strong legs and jaws, capable of crushing a crocodile. The morphology of the hippopotamus is a masterpiece of adaptation to amphibious life. Its massive barrel-shaped body is supported by 4 short, sturdy limbs, enabling it to move both on land and in the water. Its skin, up to 6 centimeters thick, is virtually hairless. Above all, it secretes a reddish substance, often called blood sweat, which acts as a natural antiseptic and sunscreen. But it's in the aquatic environment that the hippopotamus really reveals its superpowers. Its eyes, nostrils, and ears, located at the top of its head, enable it to remain almost entirely submerged. This means he can stay on the lookout for long periods of time. What's more, it can close its nostrils and ears underwater, and a nictitating membrane protects its eyes, making it a veritable living submarine. Despite its impressive weight, the hippopotamus is surprisingly agile in water. Although it doesn't really swim, it gives the impression of running as it bounces along the bottom, reaching speeds of 8 kilometers per hour, or 5 miles per hour, underwater. It can even hold its breath for almost 5 minutes, which is quite a feat for an animal of its size. If it looks clumsy on land, make no mistake. It can sprint, albeit over short distances, at speeds of up to 30 kilometers per hour, or 20 miles per hour. This ability, combined with its enormous jaws with canine teeth up to 50 centimeters or 20 inches long, makes it one of Africa's most dangerous animals. Hippos live in herds. While these are generally made up of 10 to 30 individuals, gatherings of over 100 specimens have been observed. Each group is dominated by a territorial male who fiercely defends his domain, particularly during the dry season when water space is considerably reduced. The territorial behavior of hippos is spectacular. males mark their territory by protecting their excrement with their tails, literally creating a wall of scent at their borders. In impressive fights, they confront each other using their enormous jaws, which they hold wide open mouth to mouth. Needless to say, they can cause terrible injuries during such fights. On the whole, however, the hippopotamus has a rather placid temperament. During the day, it blends into the riparian vegetation, where it spends much of its time. At the edge of a river, lake, or marsh, it feasts on a few algae or aquatic plants. Sometimes immersed in water to hydrate, sometimes on the shore to cover himself with mud, he takes care of his skin, which, although thick, tends to dry and crack under the sun's fiery rays. By contrast, at nightfall, it wanders on a routine course of up to 10 kilometers or 6 miles. On land, his real meal begins. Throughout the night, it feeds on grasses, reeds, and tubers. An adult specimen can swallow up to 40 kilograms or 88 pounds of vegetation per night. Because of its generous morphology and habits, the hippopotamus has a certain influence on its environment. By digging channels and rivers with its massive body, it goes so far as to modify watercourses, creating veritable hippo highways. New habitats are thus created for the benefit of other species. Its excrement, rich in nutrients, fertilizes streams and feeds fish and other aquatic organisms. In short, the hippopotamus is an essential link between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems. But their impact is not always positive. In some areas, excessive hippo populations can overexploit riparian vegetation and pollute watercourses with their abundant droppings, affecting water quality and aquatic life. After exploring these land titans of Africa, you'd think we'd seen the most imposing creatures the Earth can shelter. Certainly other colossi, such as the robust American bison, weighing up to 1 ton, or the imposing Alaskan Kodiak bear, reaching 800 kilograms or 1,800 pounds, would also merit our attention. However, to truly appreciate the scale of our planet's largest creatures, we now need to plunge into the depths of the oceans. For it is here, in the vast blue sea, that nature has truly given free rein to her imagination, creating giants of a size that defies comprehension. Leaving behind dry land and its four-legged giants, we immerse ourselves in the fascinating world of sea monsters, where even the notion of mass takes on a whole new dimension. Let's continue our journey into the warm waters of the tropical and subtropical oceans to meet a peaceful giant of the seas, the whale shark. Despite its intimidating name, this aquatic colossus is actually a gentle giant that fascinates as much as it impresses. And with good reason. The whale shark holds the undisputed title of the largest living fish on our planet. Some specimens reach a staggering 20 meters or 66 feet in length and weigh in at over 30 tons. Imagine such a creature, as heavy as 3 African elephants and as long as an articulated bus. Its silhouette is unique and instantly recognizable. Its massive body is covered by a dense skin up to 10 centimeters thick. This is adorned with a distinctive pattern of white dots and lines on a dark gray-blue background. Indeed, in some parts of the world, this ornament has earned it the nickname of the polka dot lady. Its broad, flattened head houses a huge mouth up to 2 meters or 7 feet wide. But, contrary to the terrifying image we might have of sharks, this mouth is not lined with sharp teeth. it houses thousands of insignificant teeth that it doesn't even use for feeding. In fact, despite its imposing size, the whale shark feeds mainly on microorganisms that it ingests by filtration. Plankton, krill, small crustaceans or squid, and at most a few fish under 10 centimeters or 4 inches make up the bulk of its diet. This filter feeder ingests astronomical quantities of water to meet its daily needs. Like an enormous underwater vacuum cleaner, the whale shark swims slowly, mouth wide open, filtering up to 6,000 liters of water per hour. To maintain its impressive size, it must consume huge quantities of these tiny creatures, sometimes up to 45 kilograms or 100 pounds a day. This unique feeding pattern explains why whale sharks are often seen in groups in plankton-rich areas, or during periods of massive spawning of certain fish or corals. Some gatherings, sometimes numbering dozens of individuals, offer a breathtaking natural spectacle. The whale shark's impressive size is no accident, but the results of meticulous evolution over millions of years. This spectacular growth, aided by the advantages of a massive body and adaptation to filter feeding, perfectly illustrates how nature has shaped this sea behemoth. A master of efficiency in its oceanic environment, the whale shark is one of the largest creatures to populate our seabed. Let's leave the warm waters of the tropics and dive into the abyssal depths. Let's meet another marine colossus, as mysterious as it is impressive, the sperm whale. The sperm whale's anatomy is a masterpiece of deep-sea adaptation. Its body can reach a length of 20 meters, or 66 feet for males, with a weight of up to 50 tons. But it's its head that immediately catches our attention. It houses the largest brain in the animal kingdom, weighing up to 9 kilograms or 20 pounds, as well as a unique organ known as the spermaceti organ. Filled with a waxy substance, it plays a crucial role in diving. By controlling the temperature, and thus the density of this substance, sperm whales can adjust their buoyancy with remarkable precision. This adaptation enables it to remain apneic for more than 90 minutes and to dive to astonishing depths of up to 3,000 meters or 10,000 feet. The sperm whale is thus able to descend deeper than most submersible vessels. What's more, the sperm whale is the largest toothed predator on the planet, and its diet lives up to its reputation. Its prey of choice? The colossal squid, a creature living in the abyssal depths just as mysterious as itself. To hunt its elusive prey in the total darkness of the deep, the sperm whale uses echolocation. It emits powerful sonic clicks that bounce off its prey, enabling it to locate them with pinpoint accuracy. According to a still debated theory, its sounds are so powerful that they can paralyze its unfortunate victims. The sperm whale hunt is a spectacle that few have had the chance to observe. But the circular scars on the skin of some specimens bear witness to epic battles between this colossus and a few giant squids. I leave it to you to imagine what such a confrontation would be like in the abyssal darkness. But the sperm whale is more than just a predator. It's also one of the most intelligent and socially complex creatures in our oceans. Sperm whales live in structured groups. These clans, which can number up to 20 individuals, are mainly made up of females and young. In this matriarchal structure, older females lead the group and pass on their knowledge. Adult males, on the other hand, generally lead a more solitary life. But one of the most fascinating aspects of sperm whale intelligence is their ability to communicate. They use vocalizations in the form of a series of complex clicks called codas. Each clan even seems to have its own dialect. In addition to effective communication, sperm whales also demonstrate cultural behavior. They have already been observed teaching hunting techniques to their young, practicing social rituals, and even caring for injured or sick members of their group. With its impressive mass, extraordinary diving skills, and social intelligence, the sperm whale perfectly symbolizes the mysterious world of our oceans. Each discovery about this species reminds us just how complex and sophisticated marine life can be, even in the most remote and darkest parts of our planet. Now get ready to meet the true titan of the oceans, the most massive creature our planet has ever borne, the majestic blue whale. Imagine for a moment an animal so big it makes an elephant look like a toy. So heavy, it weighs as much as 30 adult T-Rexes combined. So powerful that its heartbeat can be detected 3 kilometers or 2 miles away. This animal is not a creature of legend. It's real. The blue whale, the largest animal ever to exist on Earth. Surpassing in size and weight all other animals present or fossil, including the largest dinosaurs such as the Argentinosaurus. The largest specimens of blue whales can reach a staggering 30 meters or 100 feet in length, the equivalent of 3 buses put end to end. Their weight can exceed 200 tons, the equivalent of around 33 African elephants or 2,500 adult men. To better understand the scale of this colossus, let's make a few striking comparisons. His tongue alone represents the weight of an adult elephant. Its heart is the size of a small car and weighs as much as a horse. Its arteries are so wide, over 23 centimeters or 9 inches, that a small child could squeeze through them. At birth, a newborn blue whale already weighs 2.7 tons and gains almost 90 kilograms or 200 pounds a day during its first years. These figures make the blue whale not only the largest living animal to date, but also the largest animal to have ever existed in the history of our planet. But how does such a gigantic animal manage to feed itself? Paradoxically, the blue whale feeds on one of the ocean's smallest creatures, the krill, a tiny crustacean no more than a few centimeters long. Like the whale shark, the blue whale is a filter feeder. It gulps down huge quantities of seawater, then uses its baleen plates to filter the water and trap the krill. In a single gulp, it can ingest up to 80,000 liters of water, the equivalent of a 10 meter by 4 meter or 33 feet by 13 feet swimming pool. During the feeding season, to satisfy its colossal energy needs, the blue whale can consume up to 16 tons of krill per day, equivalent in calories to the daily consumption of 60,000 adult humans. The quest for food drives blue whales to undertake one of the greatest migrations in the animal kingdom. They can travel up to 26,000 kilometers or 16,000 miles a year, moving in summer to the cold, food-rich waters near the poles, and in the winter to the warmer waters of the tropics to breed. As impressive as the blue whale's size is, so is its voice. Blue whales are known to produce the most powerful sounds of any animal on Earth. Their vocalizations can reach 188 decibels, louder than a jet plane at 140 decibels and well above the human hearing threshold of 120 decibels. What's more, these low-frequency sounds can travel incredible distances in the ocean, sometimes as far as 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles. The song of the blue whale is a fascinating phenomenon. It consists of sequences of growls, moans, and pulses, each lasting up to 2 minutes and repeating for hours. The blue whale, with its staggering size, voracious appetite, and powerful voice, embodies the grandeur of the animal kingdom more than any other creature. Despite being the largest animal ever to exist, it feeds on one of the smallest marine creatures, reminding us of the incredible interconnectedness of life in the oceans. We've just explored the ocean's most iconic creatures for their size. Nevertheless, the seas are home to other equally impressive animals. These include the sunfish, which can weigh up to 2.3 tons, the giant manta ray, with a wingspan of up to 9 meters or 30 feet, and the lion's mane jellyfish, whose tentacles can extend over 36 meters or 118 feet. These creatures are an example of the diversity of forms that marine gigantism can take. But now let's leave the ocean depths and move closer to the coasts and land, where the most imposing representatives of the reptile world await us. Get ready to meet the ultimate predator of coastal areas, a creature that looks like it came straight out of the age of the dinosaurs, the marine crocodile, also known as the saltwater crocodile. Imagine coming face to face with a prehistoric creature 6 meters or 20 feet long, weighing over a ton, and with a mouth powerful enough to crush an ox. This is not a horror movie scenario, but a very real possibility. The saltwater crocodile, as described above, actually exists. It is the largest reptile currently living on Earth. The power of this super predator is simply astounding. With a bite force of up to 1.6 tons per square centimeter, the saltwater crocodile holds the record for the most powerful bite in the animal kingdom. To give you an idea, that's like placing the weight of a small car on just one of your fingernails. But it's not just its size that's impressive. The marine crocodile is covered in scales as hard as stone, forming an almost impenetrable natural armor. Its muscular legs enable it to propel itself out of the water at lightning speed, leaving its prey virtually no escape. Contrary to what its name might suggest, the saltwater crocodile is not confined to the oceans. It is a master of adaptation, reigning over a vast empire stretching from northern Australia to India, via Southeast Asia. It can be found in estuaries, rivers, and even several kilometers out to sea. Imagine the surprise of Australian surfers when they sometimes spot these behemoths riding the waves alongside them. The marine crocodile, the only crocodilian truly adapted to saltwater, can survive in both fresh and saltwater. Thanks to specific glands on its tongue, it can eliminate excess salt from its body. This adaptability makes it one of the most versatile reptiles on the planet. The marine crocodile's hunting strategy is a fascinating blend of patience and explosiveness. Lurking beneath the water's surface with only its eyes and nostrils protruding, it can wait for hours for the perfect moment to strike. When its prey gets too close to the water's edge, the crocodile springs into action. With lightning acceleration, it can throw 2/3 of its body out of the water in a fraction of a second. This surprise attack is so fast that even the most agile prey often doesn't stand a chance. Its diet is as varied as it is impressive. From fish to birds, buffalo, wild boar, and even sharks, no creature is safe from this unrivaled predator. There are even documented cases of marine crocodiles attacking tigers and hippos. Its most spectacular hunting technique is the death roll. After seizing its prey, the crocodile rapidly spins around, disorientating and dismembering its victim. This spectacle, as terrifying as it is fascinating, bears witness to millions of years of predatory evolution. Also renowned for its intelligence, the saltwater crocodile has been observed using sticks to attract birds in search of nesting material. Now let's glide from the brackish waters of the estuaries to the verdant depths of the Amazon. Here, another legendary predator awaits us. It's a creature that has inspired as many myths as it has nightmares. The green anaconda, a snake covered in olive green scales and black spots. This reptile is so massive that it can easily envelop an adult man in its rings. The green anaconda holds the title of the world's largest snake in terms of mass. Although the reticulated python may be longer, the green anaconda far surpasses it in weight and girth. Females, considerably larger than males, can reach staggering dimensions. Imagine a snake, 9 meters or 30 feet long, with a diameter comparable to that of a truck tire and weighing up to 250 kilograms or 550 pounds. That's equivalent to the weight of 3 adult men. The confirmed record size for a green anaconda is 9.6 meters, or 30 feet. But Amazonian legends speak of even larger specimens. Who knows what monsters may still be lurking in the unexplored recesses of the jungle. Contrary to popular belief, the green anaconda is not a tree dweller. It reigns supreme in the waters. Its kingdom extends over the vast floodplains, swamps, and slow-moving streams of the Amazon and the Orinoco, South America's other river. Like the saltwater crocodile, the anaconda is perfectly adapted to aquatic life. Its eyes and nostrils, located on the top of its head, enable it to remain almost entirely submerged while watching for its prey. Its waterproof skin and ability to hold its breath for long periods make it a formidable swimmer. Sliding silently beneath the water's surface, almost invisible despite its imposing size, this sea monster is completely camouflaged. It's easy to see why the green anaconda is one of the most effective predators in its environment. Its well-honed hunting technique is most frightening. Ambushed in murky waters or wrapped around submerged roots, it waits for the right moment. When a prey animal approaches the shore to drink, with surprising speed for its size, it seizes its victim with its powerful jaws, lined with curved teeth. But that's just the beginning. Its real lethal weapon is its muscular rings. In an instant, the snake wraps its massive body around its prey. With each exhalation of the poor victim, it tightens its grip ever tighter, using the very weight of its prey against it. The prey is then doomed to a slow and certain death. Once inert, the anaconda swallows it whole. Thanks to its extensible jaw and elastic body, it can swallow prey much larger than its own head. The digestion process can take weeks, so the green anaconda feeds only a few times a year. After observing the cold-blooded monsters that dominate the land and water, you'd think you'd seen the most impressive creatures our planet has to offer. But Mother Nature still has some surprises in store for us. Let's delve into a world where the absence of a backbone is no barrier to gigantism. A realm where boneless creatures can reach staggering sizes, defying our understanding of what's possible in the animal world. Welcome to the fascinating world of massive invertebrates, where the limits of size are pushed beyond imagination, and where the strangest creatures rival vertebrates in terms of size and biomass. Let's plunge into the abyssal depths of the Antarctic Ocean to meet the true titan of invertebrates, the colossal squid. This monster of the deep is not only the largest known invertebrate, but also one of the most enigmatic creatures on our planet. The colossal squid can reach staggering dimensions, with an estimated total length of up to 14 meters or 46 feet, the length of a bus. Its mass is equally impressive, exceeding 750 kilograms, or 1,650 pounds. Just imagine a squid weighing as much as a car. What really sets the colossal squid apart are its gigantic eyes, the largest in the animal kingdom. With a diameter of up to 30 centimeters or 12 inches, the size of a pie plate, these visual organs are perfectly adapted to catch the slightest glimmer of light in the total darkness of the deep. As for the colossal squid's tentacles, they are equipped with unique and above all terrifying suction cups. Unlike the flat suckers of most squid, the colossal squid suckers are equipped with sharp rotating hooks. These claws can measure up to 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch in length, transforming each tentacle into a fearsome sharp weapon. Thus equipped, the colossal squid is capable of capturing and holding prey as massive as deep-sea sharks. What's more, its body is remarkably muscular and robust. These properties are necessary to enable it to withstand the enormous pressure of the depths where it lives, generally between 1,000 and 2,000 meters, or between 3,280 and 6,600 feet below the surface. Its mantle, the main part of its body, can be up to 2 meters or 7 feet long, and almost 1 meter or 3 feet wide, giving it a stockier, more powerful form than its cousin, the giant squid. Discovering and studying the colossal squid remains a major challenge for scientists. To date, only a handful of specimens have been captured or observed alive. Most of our knowledge comes from remains found in the stomachs of sperm whales, their main predators. It's easy to imagine what it might be like for these two marine creatures to clash in the depths of the ocean. The colossal squid is undoubtedly the most gigantic of all invertebrates. It also bears witness to the fascinating evolution and adaptation of this species in one of our planet's most extreme environments. What's more, this creature has always been synonymous with mystery and danger. From sailors' tales of tentacled monsters attacking ships to representations in literature, such as Jules Verne's famous novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Let's leave the dark, unfathomable depths and move closer to the shores of Japan. Another marvel from the world of invertebrates awaits us in this part of the globe. This is the Japanese giant spider crab, scientifically known as Macrochera camphri, a creature that could certainly fit into a good horror movie. This crab, whose leg span could easily cover a sedan-type car, holds the record for the largest living arthropod due to this unusual characteristic. To give you a concrete idea, consider that its legs can extend up to 3.8 meters or 12 feet from tip to tip. As for its body, it can reach 40 centimeters or 16 inches wide and weigh up to 20 kilograms or 44 pounds, the weight of a 5-year-old child. Needless to say, This is quite a size for a simple crustacean. As you can see, its appearance is just as fascinating as its size. With a relatively small body compared to the enormous size of its legs, it looks like a giant sea spider. Its bright orange carapace, dotted with white spots, is covered with small spines and protuberances that give it a prehistoric look. Its small black eyes contrast with its enormous claws, capable of seizing and crushing prey with impressive force. To get a closer look at the Japanese giant spider crab, we need to descend to depths ranging from 50 to 600 meters, or 165 to 2,000 feet in the Pacific waters surrounding the Japanese archipelago. Indeed, this giant creature prefers cold, oxygen-rich waters, hence its presence in submarine canyons and continental slopes. Although one might think otherwise, this crab is a patient and opportunistic predator. It uses its long legs as sensors, detecting vibrations and odors in the water. Its slow, deliberate gait has earned it the nickname dancing crab in Japan. Its diet is varied. It includes algae, mollusks, small fish, and even some carrion. Its powerful claws enable it to easily break the shells of the mollusks it loves, while its legs help it to search the seabed for additional food. The longevity of this creature is equally extraordinary. Some of these crabs can live up to 100 years. This is an extremely curious fact, especially as these creatures go through periods when they are particularly vulnerable. Indeed, these slow-growing animals regularly molt to increase their size. It is during this molting process, which is most spectacular in a creature of this size, that their survival is seriously compromised. Japan's giant spider crab has become a popular attraction in many of the country's aquariums, where visitors can observe these prodigious creatures in environments that recreate their natural habitat. But beyond the fascination generated by this species' morphology, it occupies a special place in Japanese culture, particularly from a culinary point of view. The meat of the giant spider crab, locally known as taka ashigani, or long-legged crab, is considered a relatively expensive delicacy. Particularly appreciated for its softness and texture, it is often served boiled or grilled in gourmet restaurants. Having explored our planet's present-day colossi, how about going back in time? Because far beyond human memory, many of the creatures that once existed are still described as titanic. Let's plunge into a world that disappeared millions of years ago, at a time when the Earth was dominated by colossi, compared to which most of today's most massive animals would seem almost insignificant. Welcome to the age of superlatives, when dinosaurs exercised unrivaled supremacy and the notion of the gigantic took on its full meaning. Among these prehistoric behemoths, one group stands out for its pharaonic dimensions, the titanosaurs. This creature was so massive that it shook the ground with every step, and so tall that it could look down on a 3-story building. Titanosaurs, which belonged to the sauropod dinosaur group, dominated the Earth between 100 and 66 million years ago. Patagotitan mayorum is the record-holding specimen of the largest known land animal. Discovered in Argentina in 2014, its size has been estimated at 37 meters or 120 feet long, and its weight at around 69 tons. When it was alive, it was as heavy as 12 African elephants combined. The titanosaur's morphology is astounding. Its neck, up to 15 meters or 50 feet long, is made up of giant vertebrae, some measuring over a meter in diameter. Thanks to this long, strong neck, Titanosaurus could reach tall vegetation without having to move. This represented a considerable energy saving for this behemoth, whose every movement, as you can imagine, required colossal efforts. Its tail, equally impressive, measures up to 20 meters or 65 feet in length. More than an essential counterweight to its long neck, it served as a potential defensive weapon. A simple sweep of the tail was enough to ward off most predators daring to attack. As for its legs, which resemble elephant feet rather than dinosaur legs, they are fitted with massive bones and act as sturdy pillars. And with good reason. The femur of an Argentinosaurus, another giant titanosaur specimen, is a staggering 2.5 meters or 8 feet long, and would have weighed as much as a saloon car. Surprisingly, despite their enormous size, Titanosaurs' brains were no bigger than a banana. However, this didn't stop them from displaying complex social behaviors. Indeed, fossilized nest discoveries suggest that they knew how to take care of their young, who at birth were comparable in size to calves. While the morphology of these creatures was already astounding, their lifestyle was no less so. Their herbivorous diet demanded a daily consumption of plants to the tune of around 400 kilograms, or 880 pounds. To digest such a quantity of food, Titanosaurs were probably equipped with a highly efficient digestive system. No doubt, like our modern cows, they had multiple stomach chambers, but on a much larger scale. In other words, their passage through the vegetation did not go unnoticed. They left behind veritable trails, literally shaping the landscape they crossed. But this apparent destruction wasn't all bad. Their excrement also marked their passage. The size of a small car, they massively fertilized the soil, influencing plant growth over vast areas. Despite their exceptional size, titanosaurs were not immune to predators. As some fossils showing tooth marks testify today, there is no doubt that large theropods, like Gigantosaurus, preyed on titanosaurs. However, only the young or weakened individuals were accessible prey for these carnivores. Surprisingly, despite their extraordinary mass, titanosaurs laid relatively small eggs, no bigger than a football. This means that baby titanosaurs must have grown exponentially, gaining up to several tons a year in the early stages of their growth. Now let's dive into the prehistoric oceans to meet a predator so massive it makes the great white shark look like a mere goldfish, the megalodon. This super predator, whose name means big tooth, ruled the seas between 23 and 3.6 million years ago. Imagine your fear if you came face to face with a shark 3 times larger than today's most extraordinary great whites. The megalodon could reach a staggering 18 meters in length, the length of a bus, and weigh up to 50 tons. Its mass was comparable to that of 7 adult African elephants combined. Its gaping maw could open to almost 3 meters or 10 feet wide. Just think, an animal like that was capable of gobbling up any prey the size of a small car in a single mouthful. But what's most striking are its teeth. Unlike the teeth of modern sharks, which are usually only a few centimeters long, megalodons were up to 18 centimeters or 7 inches long, the size of an adult's hand. Not only were its teeth large, they were also incredibly powerful. With a bite force estimated at between 108,000 and 182,000 newtons, the megalodon had the most powerful bite of any known animal, past or present. To put this feat into perspective, it's 10 times more powerful than the bite of a great white shark, and strong enough to crush the skull of a small cetacean in a single bite. As you can imagine, the megalodon's diet matched its imposing size. This super predator fed mainly on well-sized marine prey. Primitive whales, seals, dolphins, and even other sharks made up the bulk of its preferred menu. Consequently, its impact on the ancient marine ecosystem must have been colossal. As an apex predator, Megalodon regulated the populations of large marine mammals, influencing the entire oceanic food chain, which it dominated with terror. In fact, studies of prehistoric whale vertebrae fossils show the teeth marks characteristic of the Megalodon. These sequelae reveal that these two giants of the sea must have clashed with unprecedented violence. During these terrible battles, the wounds inflicted by the Megalodon on its adversary gave it little chance of escaping. All the more so as the Megalodon hunted by targeting the vital organs of its prey, such as the heart and lungs, using its mass and power to inflict rapidly fatal blows. Moreover, the Megalodon was probably an endothermic predator. In other words, it must have been able to regulate its body temperature. This major adaptation enabled it to hunt in colder waters while maintaining a high metabolic rate, a vital function in supporting its super predator lifestyle. The extinction of such a creature, which occurred some 3.6 million years ago, remains a subject of debate in the scientific sphere. The main theories include global cooling of the oceans, which reduced its habitat and the abundance of its prey. In addition, there may have been increased competition from new species of toothed whales and killer whales. Some researchers also suggest that the evolution of large migratory whales may have contributed to the decline of the Megalodon. These, able to travel to even colder waters, could then have been out of its reach. Among the most emblematic prehistoric creatures, we can't forget a land predator whose name alone evokes power and ferocity. Here is the famous Tyrannosaurus Rex. This carnivore was so massive that it shook the ground with every step it took. The mere silhouette of this bipedal super predator was enough to freeze the blood of any prey that caught sight of him. And with good reason. The T-Rex could reach a length of 13 meters or 43 feet, the size of an SUV, and a height of 4 meters or 13 feet, and that's just at hip level. As for its mass, this colossus could have weighed between 8 and 10 tons, the equivalent of 12 cows. The T-Rex's head, in proportion to the rest of its body, was enormous, measuring up to 1.5 meters or 5 feet in length. Imagine the dimensions of such a skull, as large as a 2-seater sofa. This massive head housed jaws containing conical teeth, some 20 centimeters or 8 inches long, the size of a kitchen knife. Already impressive for their length, these teeth were designed to crush bone. Capable of exerting a bite force estimated at over 35,000 newtons, the most powerful of any terrestrial dinosaur on record, they made this creature a veritable killing machine. Although it was long thought that the T-Rex was a slow, clumsy predator, recent discoveries show that it was in fact a formidably efficient hunter. Despite its imposing mass, it could reach a top speed of 20 kilometers per hour, or 12 miles per hour. Fast enough to catch most of its prey, it seized them with its small arms. Although long thought to be atrophied, these were in fact extremely powerful, capable of lifting up to 200 kilograms or 440 pounds each. In the wooded plains and open forests of North America where he lived, he hunted large dinosaurs such as Triceratops and Edmontosaurus. He could spot their presence from miles around, thanks in particular to his highly developed sense of smell. An extremely efficient predator, it was able to crush and digest all their bones, extracting maximum nutrients from its prey. Nevertheless, many mysteries remain about the T-Rex. Its social behavior in particular is still the subject of debate. Some findings suggest that it could hunt in packs, while others point to a more solitary mode. What is certain, however, is that young T-Rexes were very different from adults. Lighter and more agile, they were probably able to pursue faster prey than their parents. As for its appearance, it's not impossible that the T-Rex might have sported a coat of primitive feathers. Direct evidence for such a discovery has not been established, but it would add an exotic touch to its already impressive appearance. In any case, each new discovery about this predator, which perfectly embodies the apogee of the theropod evolution, only reinforces its status as a prehistoric superstar. But our epic journey among prehistoric giants would not be complete without mentioning another colossus that left its mark on the history of paleontology, the Diplodocus. This creature, whose name means double beam in reference to the chevron-shaped bones under its tail, was one of the largest animals ever to walk the Earth. This herbivorous sauropod from the Upper Jurassic, around 150 million years ago, was the epitome of gigantism. Imagine this animal, so long it could stretch from one end of a basketball court to the other, and even then its tail would go beyond the limits. The Diplodocus could reach a staggering length of up to 32 meters, or 105 feet. Despite this extraordinary length, its mass was relatively modest for a sauropod, fluctuating between 10 and 16 tons, making it a rather graceful giant compared to its more massive cousins. Diplodocus's morphology was a model of natural engineering. Its neck, composed of 15 elongated vertebrae, could measure up to 6 meters or 20 feet in length, enabling it to reach high vegetation without having to move. But it was the tail that was truly remarkable. With its 80 vertebrae, it could measure up to 14 meters or 46 feet long, more than half the animal's total length. This tail was more than just a counterweight. Studies suggest that it could be used as a supersonic whip, capable of producing a deafening snap to scare off predators or communicate with its fellow creatures. Imagine the sound produced by a tail weighing several tons and moving at the speed of sound. The skull of Diplodocus, astonishingly small in relation to its body size, only 60 centimeters or 24 inches long, was equipped with pencil-shaped teeth, perfectly suited to tearing up vegetation. These teeth, constantly replaced throughout its life, were located only at the front of the jaw, a unique feature among sauropods. The behavior and habitat of Diplodocus continue to fascinate paleontologists. These giants inhabited the open plains and forests of what is now western North America. It is thought that they lived in herds, perhaps to protect themselves from predators like Allosaurus. Its colossal size was not only a defense, but also an adaptation to its diet. As a herbivore, it had to consume huge quantities of vegetation to sustain its massive body. A fascinating anatomical feature of Diplodocus was the presence of stomach stones, or gastroliths. These rocks, intentionally swallowed, helped it to crush the food in its stomach, compensating for the absence of teeth adapted to mastication. Some specimens had up to 100 kilograms, or 220 pounds of these stones in their abdominal cavity. Despite its imposing size, Diplodocus was remarkably well adapted to its environment. Its nostrils, located at the top of the skull, allowed it to breathe while keeping most of its body immersed in water, offering protection from heat and predators. This adaptation suggests that it probably spent a lot of time in shallow lakes or swamps. Having observed some of the largest land and sea creatures of prehistoric times, it would be unfair not to mention other notable creatures that also left their mark on their era. The woolly mammoth, with its imposing tusks and thick fur, dominated glacial landscapes just a few thousand years ago, reaching a withers height of 3.4 meters or 11 feet and a weight of 6 tons. Its cousins, the mastodons, were not to be outdone in their massive structure. However, prodigious size was not the prerogative of terrestrial creatures. In the skies of the Mesozoic era, flying reptiles like the pterodactyl split the air with their membranous wings. While the pterodactyl was relatively modest with a wingspan of around 1 meter or 3 feet, some of its cousins reached far more spectacular dimensions. This evocation of flying creatures naturally raises the question: how far did gigantism go in the air? What were the largest creatures capable of defying gravity and dominating the prehistoric skies? Let's find out as we explore the undisputed masters of the ancient firmaments, creatures so large they seem to defy the laws of physics. Let's turn our gaze skywards to discover the flying behemoths that have countered the Earth's attraction throughout our planet's history. Among today's birds, certain species stand out for their impressive size. The Andean condor, with a wingspan of up to 3.3 meters, or 11 feet, soars majestically over the mountain peaks of South America. Its imposing mass of 15 kilograms, or 33 pounds, makes it one of the heaviest birds capable of active flight. Its North American cousin, the California condor, has a similar wingspan. The white pelican, meanwhile, astonishes with its colossal wingspan of up to 3.6 meters or 12 feet. What makes it truly unique is its enormous beak, with an expandable gular pouch that can hold up to 13 liters of water, and if possible, fish. Weighing up to 15 kilograms, or 33 pounds, the pelican is a true giant of coastal and lake areas. Although more modest in size, the snowy owl impresses by its robustness. With a wingspan of up to 1.5 meters, or 5 feet, and a weight of up to 3 kilograms, or 7 pounds, it is the heaviest owl in North America. Its massive body and thick plumage enable it to withstand the extreme climatic conditions of the Arctic. Despite their already incredible dimensions, these birds are dwarfs compared to the winged giants that once dominated the skies of our planet. Over the course of evolution, the Earth has been home to flying creatures of such titanic wingspan that their shadows cast on the ground must have seemed extremely terrifying to terrestrial creatures. Their sheer size defies our imagination, pushing back the limits of what we thought possible for a flying animal. Among these prehistoric colossi, Pelagornis sandersi stands out as one of the largest birds ever to have existed. Fossils of this flying colossus, which lived between 25 and 28 million years ago, were discovered in 1983 in South Carolina. With a wingspan of around 7 meters or 23 feet, Pelagornis sandersi far surpassed the largest flying birds of today. To this day, this prehistoric creature is considered the largest recorded flying bird. To give you a better idea of the Pelagornis sandersi's wingspan, its outstretched wings were wider than those of a small pickup truck, almost evoking the dimensions of a light glider. Moreover, the body of this behemoth of the skies was remarkably well suited to gliding over long distances. Its hollow, singularly light bones enable it to support the weight of its entire body, which was relatively light despite its titanic size. Indeed, the weight of this flying creature has been estimated at between 21 and 40 kilograms, or between 46 and 88 pounds, which is surprisingly little for a bird of its size. This lightness, combined with its immense wings, probably enabled it to glide for hours over the oceans. Relying on updrafts, Pelagornis sandersi must have been able to cover vast distances with a minimum of effort. While the Pelagornis sandersi dominated the skies above prehistoric oceans, another winged titan has left traces of its existence on the lands of South America, the Argentinosaurus magnificens. Although they did not coexist, the Argentinosaurus having lived between 6 and 8 million years ago, these two winged colossi illustrate the apogee of avian gigantism at different times and in different regions of the globe. The Argentinosaurus magnificens, whose name translates as Argentinian magnificent bird, more than lives up to its name. With an estimated wingspan of up to 6.5 meters or 21 feet, it rivals the Pelagornis sandersi for the title of largest cataloged flying bird. Imagine a bird whose spread wings could cover the width of a volleyball court. And that's not all. Unlike the Pelagornis, the Argentinosaurus was much more massive. Its weight is estimated at 70 kilograms, or 155 pounds, the equivalent of an average-sized adult human. This considerable mass makes it potentially the heaviest flying bird of all time. What's more, the Argentinosaurus's morphology was adapted to its lifestyle as an aerial predator. Its robust hooked beak, similar to that of modern vultures but much larger, suggests a carnivorous diet. It is thought to have fed mainly on carrion, but it is not impossible that its imposing size enabled it to hunt medium-sized live prey. The flight of the Argentinosaurus must have been a subjugating spectacle. With its substantial mass, it had to rely heavily on thermal currents to rise and glide. But once airborne, it could probably cover vast distances without too much effort, flying over the South American plains in search of a few pittances. The Argentinosaurus's interactions with its environment and other species must have been fascinating. As the largest aerial predator in its ecosystem, it probably had no natural predators, at least in adulthood. Its presence must have had a significant impact on the populations of its prey, and greatly influenced the behavior of other scavengers. We've just explored the largest animal species our planet has ever seen. However, other creatures deserve an honorable mention for their unique characteristics in relation to their impressive morphology. Let's start in the ocean depths with the giant squid, not to be confused with its cousin, the famous colossal squid. Although slightly less massive, the giant squid remains an intimidating creature, reaching a total length of 13 meters or 43 feet and a weight of 275 kilograms or 600 pounds. Remarkably, The giant squid has the largest axon or nerve fiber diameter known in the animal kingdom, measuring up to 1 millimeter. This unique feature enables ultra-rapid transmission of nerve signals essential for coordinating the movements of its long tentacles. Unlike the colossal squid, which lives mainly in Antarctic waters, the giant squid is more widely distributed. Its presence has even been noted in all the world's major oceans. This wider distribution has helped fuel sea monster legends throughout history, making the giant squid a veritable icon of mysterious marine life. Let's move on to warmer waters to meet the giant manta ray. With a wingspan of up to 9 meters or 30 feet, the largest radius ever observed, it weighs in at a maximum of 3 tons. Despite its imposing size, it feeds mainly on tiny planktonic organisms. Its brain is also remarkably large for a fish, suggesting above-average intelligence. On land, the reticulated python holds the record for the world's longest living snake. It can reach up to 10 meters or 33 feet in length, although it is not as heavy as the green anaconda. This monstrous reptile is capable of swallowing prey the size of a whole deer. Its secret? Elastic ligaments connecting its jaws, enabling it to open its mouth at an angle of almost 180 degrees. Finally, let's turn our attention to the giraffe, the tallest land animal in the modern world, with a height of up to 5.8 meters. It also has an exceptional heart, designed to pump blood to its head. It weighs around 11 kilograms, or 24 pounds, and is 60 centimeters, or 24 inches long. Even more surprising, despite its long neck, the giraffe has only 7 cervical vertebrae, the same number as humans. Our journey through the world of Earth's most massive creatures has taken us from the abyssal depths to prehistoric skies, plains and forests populated by giants. Whether they have been extinct for millions of years or are still roaming our planet today, these giants remind us of the incredible diversity and perpetual adaptability of life. But our exploration raises as many questions as it answers. What other gigantic creatures have yet to be discovered in the unexplored corners of our planet? What evolutionary secrets allowed these titans to emerge? And above all, what lessons can we learn from their existence and sometimes from their disappearance? The history of these massive creatures is intimately linked to that of our planet. Each discovery offers new insights into the forces that have shaped life on Earth over the millennia. As we continue to explore and learn, who knows what wonders and mysteries still await us? The history of dinosaurs is ancient and therefore difficult to grasp. This is, of course, the main reason why it is so difficult to analyze their remains. They left many traces of their passage, but it's always complicated to process elements that are tens or even hundreds of millions of years old. Another reason for errors of analysis and interpretation is the length of time they were on Earth. The dinosaur period is so long ago that it sometimes seems much shorter than it actually was. They ruled the Earth for almost 165 million years. If the history of the Earth from its formation to the present day were measured in years, the dinosaurs would have been on Earth for 14 days. This may not sound like much, but it's far more impressive than the time taken by modern humans, represented by Homo sapiens, which is 35 minutes in the same year. If we go back in history to the arrival of the very first dinosaurs, we should find ourselves in the Triassic period, around 250 million years ago. It was at this time, after an unprecedented biological crisis, that the dinosaurs arrived on Earth. Our planet has experienced several mass extinctions, including the one that put an end to the existence of non-avian dinosaurs some 165 million years later. The latter is undoubtedly the most popular with the general public. But what is less well known is that it was neither the only nor the most important one. The extinction that marks the end of the Permian and the beginning of the Triassic, which we're about to look at, was like no other. It was the most devastating extinction of all. This mass extinction occurred around 252 million years ago. As we've seen, it marks the boundary between the Permian and Triassic geological periods, and thus between the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras. And the era of the dinosaurs is the Mesozoic era. This era is itself made up of the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous respectively. Right now we're between the Permian and Triassic eras, in the midst of the chaos that reigns in every corner of the globe. In the collective imagination, an extinction is violent, sudden, and very rapid. It would arrive like a gigantic bomb, capable of wiping out 3/4 of the Earth in a fraction of a second. Contrary to popular belief, this extinction is spread over several thousand years and has many causes. Since 2021, we know a little more about the origins of the Permian-Triassic extinction. For a long time it was thought that only the volcanoes of the Siberian traps were responsible for the chaos to come. But we now know that it's probably a little more complex than that. While Siberian volcanic activity is a perfect match in terms of dates for these climate changes, a study published by Nature Geoscience sheds light on another, very intense, violent terrestrial activity that extends over a long period of time. This is Australian volcanic activity. It predates the Siberian traps and lasted for almost 4 million years. Based on the latest results of this study, published in May 2022, this activity could explain a change in climate prior to the extinction event, starting several thousand years ago, particularly in the ocean. This earlier, longer-lasting change is far more likely than a rapid, violent event. Climate change is a gradual process, but it impacts all elements of the biotope and biocenosis. The consequences are irreparable. The Siberian traps are mainly characterized by huge outpourings of basaltic lava. Australia is a different kettle of fish. Eruption activity is high, but also very violent. Australian supereruptions are said to have been marked by catastrophic explosions, spewing huge quantities of ash and gas into the atmosphere. These ash deposits can now be seen in numerous sedimentary series throughout eastern Australia. Researchers believe that these could be the most violent eruptions the Earth has ever seen. It is highly likely that these explosive eruptions were accompanied by the massive release of greenhouse gases, initiating the climatic upheaval that led to the biological crisis that marked the end of the Permian. However, volcanic activity in the traps cannot be ruled out. Let's just say that while the Siberian traps may not be the sole cause, they could well be the last straw. According to a study dated 2021 for PNAS and conducted by several Norwegian, American, Chinese, and Dutch scientists, the massive and rapid emission of predominantly volcanic CO2 is responsible for the Permian-Triassic biological crisis. The volcanic phenomenon led to an estimated temperature rise of between 5 and 8 degrees Celsius, or between 9 and 15 degrees Fahrenheit. A difference of this magnitude is bound to have a colossal impact on the biotope and biocenosis. All ecosystems are at risk. Global warming and ocean acidification have made the planet unlivable, explain the scientists. During this ecological catastrophe, the oceans were the first to be affected, becoming dead zones. The decomposition of aquatic plants and animals in turn created clouds of poisonous gas. The air became unbreathable and asphyxiating. During the Permian-Triassic period, almost all biodiversity disappeared in less than 100,000 years. 96% of marine species and over 75% of terrestrial species were devastated. But nature always rises from the ashes. After this unprecedented crisis, life managed to breathe new life into itself. Some species have survived, others are about to blossom. If nature manages to reclaim its rights, it is not without difficulty. It took several million years for flora and fauna to regain possession of numerous territories. Some species managed to escape the worst. These include synapsids such as the cynodonts, ancestors of modern mammals, and the crown group of archosaurs, which dominated the entire Secondary era, giving rise to dinosaurs, flying reptiles, and crocodiles. Dinosaurs have one thing in common. Their skulls feature an opening in front of the eye socket, known as the anteorbital window. But we'll have time to talk more about them soon. Right now, it's time to meet some of their descendants. Dinosaurs are extraordinary animals. They lived on Earth for millions of years and have a lot to teach us. Thanks to technology and a healthy dose of scientific knowledge and study, we can initiate a virtual journey to the Mesozoic era. Take a seat and settle in. The adventure begins in the Triassic, and your journey starts now. Here we are in Dinosaur Land. This is Pangaea. A vast ocean called Panthalassa surrounds this landmass, forming a single continent. Contrary to popular belief, Pangaea does not have a single climate. The land of the dinosaurs was neither a vast swamp, as far as the eye could see, nor an almost tropical jungle. The climate was not the same on either side of the continent. In the center of Pangaea, comprising present-day Europe, the Americas, and Africa, the climate was predominantly desert. On the other hand, what is now India, Siberia, and even Antarctica enjoy a temperate climate. The Earth is a far cry from what we know today. It's as if someone has mixed up all the pieces of the puzzle. Nothing seems to fit. And yet, for tens of millions of years, this was the configuration of the Earth. This unique land was also the cradle of the dinosaurs. These animals experienced a variety of climates, geological periods, and adapted to different environments, from deserts to mountains to jungles. Around 230 million years ago, the first members of the dinosaur group began to appear. Depending on geographic zone, environment, and climate, animals diversified to adapt. If you remember from our little introduction, we mentioned almost 1,200 species, and that's just the species known to man. So you can imagine the diversity that reigned in this large family. When we think of dinosaurs, we immediately think of large animals, but the earliest dinosaur specimens are a far cry from the usual cliché of giant dinosaurs. The oldest confirmed dinosaurs, which lived 230 million years ago, were Saurischia. First of all, there's Saturnalia, a dinosaur whose classification was long debated until 2007, as it includes features of both sauropodomorphs and theropods. It measures around 1 to 2 meters, or 3 to 6 feet in length, and is probably no taller than an adult's knees. At the same time, there was also the Staurikosaurus. This ancestor of both sauropods and theropods was discovered in South America. It's hard to describe it with any precision because we're up against our scientific limitations here. We lack real, identifiable, and analyzable elements. With the few remains that researchers have at their disposal, they have been able to make estimates. Judging by the size of the jaw, it seems to be one of the smaller dinosaurs, measuring 2 meters or 6 feet long. It probably weighs just 30 kilograms, or 66 pounds. Its sharp teeth suggest a carnivorous diet. That's about all we know about it. Then there's Herrerasaurus. He too is a bipedal carnivore. It measures between 3 and 5 meters, or between 10 and 16 feet long, just 1 meter or 3 feet high, and weighs up to 350 kilograms or 770 pounds. It's a pretty fearsome carnivore. It has a jaw with a flexible articulation and sharp curved teeth. This mouthful of teeth enables it to rip the flesh off all the vertebrates in its ecosystem, including herbivores of the rhinoceros order, such as Hyperidapodon huxleyi, and the Decynodont order, as well as omnivores of the Etosaur order, such as Aetosauroids scaglii. Another dinosaur in the featherweight category is the Euraptor. It too is very small compared to the Diplodocus or Brachiosaurus that illustrate children's tales about dinosaurs. It measures just 1 meter, or 3 feet long, and 40 centimeters or 16 inches high. He was probably more of an omnivore. He had 5 fingers on each hand. The 3 longest ended in large claws, which he used to hold his prey. He would quickly pounce on them to take them by surprise and stack the odds in his favor. But thanks to its large claws, it could also catch plants. It is assumed that it fed on small animals, tender leaves, and fruit. Paleontologists who have studied the remains of Euraptor believe it to be one of the oldest known dinosaurs. Why do they think so? Because it is not a highly evolved predator. All the evidence suggests that it is a primitive dinosaur, so to speak. Unlike theropods, it doesn't have a slippery lower jaw to hold its prey. Likewise, only a few of its teeth are curved and crenulated. In a more evolved predator, all the teeth have acquired this shape. Yet we know that Euraptor belonged to the Saurischia thanks to the configuration of its thighs and pelvis. Euraptor is therefore older than Herrerasaurus. Finally, there's Allwalkeria, considered a basal saurischian, a small bipedal omnivore that shares many similarities with Eoraptor. These are the first small dinosaurs you might have encountered in the Triassic period. But other dinosaurs, even in the Jurassic era, were small. Compsognathus is no longer than 1 meter or 3 feet and weighs around 2.5 kilograms or 5 pounds. Despite this, it has made its mark on the land of giants, just like the Anchiornis. It measures no more than 30 centimeters or 12 inches high. Its bird-like appearance has complicated its classification by scientists. But Michael Pittman, a paleontologist from the University of Hong Kong, and some of his colleagues seriously believe that it was either a primitive bird or a bird-like troodontid dinosaur. In other words, it is a primitive member of the dinosaur group, which includes birds and bird-like dinosaurs. They share their closest common ancestor with birds. In the Cretaceous too, we can still encounter small dinosaurs. In 2022, scientists discovered one of them. The paleontologists published their discovery in the journal Scientific Reports, describing a dinosaur between 94 and 97 million years old. It measures around 1.5 meters or 5 feet in length, including tail, and weighs between 4 and 7 kilograms, or between 9 and 15 pounds, about the size of a domestic cat. The animal is robust, yet knows how to protect itself. Fossils have revealed the presence of a series of bony plates between the neck and tail. This is Jacopil, Caniacura. Not all dinosaurs were giants. We could mention many other dinosaurs of modest size, but I'd like to tell you about the origins of these animals, about their ancestors, who are just as modest in size as those we've just mentioned. The first dinosaurs appeared at the end of the Triassic period. Their anatomy has a number of features in common, which is why they form a group and are thought to share a common ancestor. They have reduced fourth and fifth fingers, 4 legs, a tail, thick skin, and a pelvis united by 3 or more sacral vertebrae. They also have oviparous reproduction and legs located under the body rather than on its sides. This is what unites dinosaurs within the same family and allows us to attribute common origins and a common ancestor to them. So who was the ancestor of the dinosaurs? This common ancestor is to be found among small, lightly built archosaurs that show the beginning of dinosaur locomotor adaptations, such as Marasuchus, discovered in the Middle Triassic of Argentina, or Congonaphon kelly. It's the latter, measuring just 10 centimeters or 4 inches, that we're mainly interested in. Can you imagine? 10 centimeters or 4 inches only, and yet he's the father of such colossi as Diplodocus, Argentinosaurus, Brachiosaurus, T-Rex, Stegosaurus, and Triceratops, whose dimensions are far more generous than his. Congonaphon is small, very small if you compare its measurements with those of the most popular dinosaurs, but it is one of the last common ancestors of dinosaurs and pterosaurs. It is therefore at the very origin of the evolution towards dinosaurs. Dinosaurs and pterosaurs belong to the Ornithodire or clade, their last common ancestor before their separation some 230 to 240 million years ago. Conganaphan Kelly is close to the divergence between dinosaurs and pterosaurs. It could, therefore, be one of the missing links in biological evolution. But how did this little creature manage to survive and get through the climatic crises? As we saw above, the Permian-Triassic crisis led to a drop in biodiversity. As this drop in biodiversity impacted plant life, oxygen production fell. The depletion of oxygen in the atmosphere would have favored species with air sacs, such as the ancestors of the dinosaurs. The latter also had down covering their skin, as is the case with Conganaphan. This would have helped its thermoregulation. As the second half of the Triassic period was characterized by extreme climatic changes, with very hot days followed by very cold nights, the small feathers would have enabled the creature to maintain a comfortable internal temperature. Speaking of origins and evolution, you may have noticed that dinosaur species are very diverse. It's a very heterogeneous group, and yet we classify them all in the same group. It's hard to find a glaring similarity between the Anchiornis and the Ankylosaurus, isn't it? And yet they do belong to the same group, and we're going to find out why. To better appreciate and understand dinosaurs, it's important to be able to tell them apart and classify them. There are two main groups of dinosaurs. We sometimes confuse these groups with their diet, whether carnivorous or herbivorous, or their posture, whether on 2 or 4 legs. The difference between these two groups lies in their pelvis. The orientation of the pubis, a bone in the pelvis of tetrapods, points downwards and forwards in saurischians, and rather backwards in ornithischians. Determining and understanding what distinguishes these two groups will enable us to learn more about dinosaurs. Saurischians differentiated themselves around 230 million years ago. They are themselves divided into two groups. First, there are the theropods. Theropod means animal feet. Theropod fossils have been discovered on every continent, in rocks dating from the Upper Triassic to the Upper Cretaceous, i.e., from around 225 to 65 million years ago. Theropods are bipedal, generally carnivorous. Their hind limbs provide support and locomotion. The front limbs are short, but equipped with movable fingers. These fingers are undoubtedly adapted for grasping and tearing prey. There are several major groups of theropods. The oldest is the Ceratosaurus. They range in size from the tiny Colophysis, less than 2 meters or 7 feet long, to the Ceratosaurus, around 6 meters or 20 feet. Then there are the Tetanurians. These are the successors to the Ceratosaurs we've just seen. The Tetanurians include carnosaurs such as Allosaurus and Coelurosaurus, a larger group that includes Tyrannosaurs, Dromaeosaurs, and ostrich dinosaurs. In both Coelurosaurs and Carnosaurs, many bones were hollow, and the jaws generally bore sharp curved teeth along their entire length. Herrerasaurus, one of the oldest known dinosaurs, was undoubtedly a theropod, or one of their close cousins. Colophysis was probably one of the first theropods. This group also includes Tyrannosaurus, Velociraptor, and Baryonyx, These bipeds vary in size. They can weigh anything from a few kilos to nearly 6 tons. Sauropodomorphs are quadrupeds, generally herbivores. They have small heads resting on long necks. They also have long tails. Their group name means lizard-footed form. In the late Triassic, there were 2 main groups of sauropodomorphs. The prosauropods, which means before lizard feet, and therefore before sauropods, were medium-sized, like Lufengosaurus. Then there were the sauropods, meaning lizard feet, which could reach gigantic sizes, like Apatosaurus. Diplodocus and Argentinosaurus belonged to this group. They had imposing bodies and large stomachs, enabling them to digest large quantities of foliage. Most also had thumbs, terminating in large claws. Plateosaurus is a fine example of a sauropodomorph. It measures between 8 and 9 meters, or 30 feet in length. It probably moves most of the time on its 4 legs, but it can stand up on its 2 hind legs. Prosauropods and sauropods spread throughout the world. While prosauropods disappeared in the lower Jurassic, sauropods continued to diversify throughout the Mesozoic. The other major group is the ornithischians. A large part of the pubis is directed downwards and backwards as in birds, and not downwards and forwards as in most reptiles. When it comes to birds, then, we'd be inclined to think that their ancestors were ornithischians. But, paradoxical as it may seem, birds are descended from Saurischian dinosaurs. But back to the group of dinosaurs with bird-like pelvises. The ornithischians can be divided into 2 subgroups, the sauropods and the theriophores. Theriophorus means shield-bearer. They have a cuirass on their backs with bony plates, but sometimes also spikes or spurs. Herbivores, theriophores, are armored dinosaurs and, for the most part, quadrupedal. They comprise 2 main groups, stegosaurids and ankylosaurs. These 2 groups share not only dermal armor, but also a variety of other features, including their small teeth, arranged in a single curved row. Both groups derive from a line of smaller armored dinosaurs, such as Scutellosaurus and Scelidosaurus from the lower Jurassic. The sauropods include the ornithopods, pachycephalosaurs, and ceratopsians. The latter 2 groups often grouped together under the name marginocephalans. Ornithopods are known from the beginning of the Jurassic to the end of the Cretaceous. They are therefore among the dinosaur lineages that had the greatest and longest evolutionary success. This group includes the Fabrosaurids, Heterodontosaurids, Hypsilophodontids, Iguanodontids, and Hadrosaurids. Fabrosaurs are the oldest and most primitive ornithopods. These small, lightly built dinosaurs grew to between 60 and 120 centimeters, or between 24 inches and 47 inches in length. Hadrosaurs, on the other hand, could reach 9 to 11 meters, or 30 to 36 feet in length. They are duck-billed dinosaurs. Their posterior teeth, crushing and located inside cheeks, were very well adapted to chewing vegetation. They traveled in herds and cared for their young, who were very immature at birth, as is the case with most mammals and birds today. Hadrosaurs include Shantungosaurus, Parasaurolophus, and Lambeosaurus. Hypsilophodontidae are great runners. They measure between 1.5 and 4 meters, or between 5 and 13 feet in length. This group includes Hypsilophodon. Among the iguanidae, of course, we find one of the most popular dinosaurs, the iguanodon. Equipped with complex teeth, typical of advanced ornithopods, it is the largest of its kind, reaching 11 meters or 36 feet in length. So here's what we can learn from the great dinosaur family and the Saurischian and Ornithischian groups. Despite their great divergences, dinosaurs have a lot in common, and a common origin. Biological evolution has enlarged the family, with groups and subgroups. But there's one thing we forgot to mention. We didn't mention marine dinosaurs or flying dinosaurs. In your opinion, are they classified as Saurischians or Ornithischians? Well, we can't classify them in the dinosaur family, for the simple reason that they're not dinosaurs. These marine reptiles from the dinosaur era are sometimes called marine dinosaurs, seemingly logical. But dinosaurs are only terrestrial. No dinosaurs lived exclusively in water. Marine reptiles mistaken for dinosaurs do not have the same characteristics, origins, or common ancestor as dinosaurs. They therefore do not belong to the same group as dinosaurs. Ichthyosaurus, Plesiosaurus, and Mosasaurus are marine reptiles. Why differentiate between these two families, dinosaurs and marine reptiles? Why isn't the animal we see here moving in the ocean a dinosaur? Yet it lived in the Mesozoic era at the same time as the dinosaurs. As we have seen, specific animal classification criteria lay the foundations for each family, each class, each group. In that of the dinosaurs, we noted that these animals had 4 legs, and that these were located under the belly. This is not the case with our marine reptiles. As you can see, if they do have 4 legs, they are only on the sides, on the animal's flanks, and not under its belly. Dinosaurs and marine reptiles don't have the same common ancestor either. Marine reptiles cannot therefore be dinosaurs. We're looking at an ichthyosaurus. This sea behemoth can reach up to 20 meters or 66 feet in length. It's a very popular marine reptile that looks a bit like our modern-day dolphins. This carnivorous reptile had an elongated snout and powerful jaws with sharp teeth. It fed on fish, ammonites, cephalopod mollusks with spiral shells, and belemnites, cephalopod mollusks related to cuttlefish. We imagine it to be a fearsome predator. Indeed, it has been for nearly 160 million years, but limiting its lifestyle to this trait is a bit simplistic. Contrary to our image of a solitary aggressive predator, Ichthyosaurus was also a social animal. A recent study into the behavior of ichthyosaurs was published in Cell magazine in November 2022. the results clearly show that Ichthyosaurus had similar habits to our whales. Ichthyosaurs migrated extensively and above all lived in groups during the birthing season. The team of paleontologists in charge of this study used a micro CT X-ray scanner to study a precise geographical area, a fossil deposit located in the Humboldt Toyab Forest in Nevada, USA. They found embryos and newborns of a species of ichthyosaur called Shawnosaurus. Why were so many ichthyosaurs concentrated in one place? This is the mystery that paleontologists have been trying to unravel. Thanks to the use of technology and various analysis tools, a climatic cause, such as a sudden change in temperature, has been ruled out. Nothing had disrupted their ecosystem. Mass stranding has also been ruled out, as scientists are now confident that the bones sank to the bottom of the sea. It's likely that there was no food for them in this region, and yet we can see a large number of newborns and embryos. So what does this tell us? Well, the American National Forest, which could have been described as an ancient burial ground, is in fact an ancient maternity hospital. Ichthyosaurs used to gather here to give birth to their young. They were undoubtedly returning to the place where they themselves years earlier had given birth. But back to the dinosaurs, and to be more precise, the flying dinosaurs we haven't yet classified. Pterosaurs are part of the dinosaur bestiary. They lived during the same period. But pterosaurs are not dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are ornithodyirid diapsid archosaurs. This somewhat barbaric term refers to a group of animals. It consists solely of dinosaurs and their descendants, and pterosaurs. These are the only two groups in this animal class. Of all the different groups of dinosaurs, the pterosaurs are the closest. It's hardly surprising, then, that we find a family resemblance and tend to confuse them. Pterosaurs were the first vertebrates to tame the sky, at least as far as we know. Like dinosaurs, pterosaurs come in a wide variety of species. Some, like the Sordae, measure barely 60 centimeters or 24 inches, while others, like the Anhangara, approach 4 meters or 13 feet. The Pteranodon has a wingspan of over 6 meters or 20 feet long. But that's nothing compared to the gigantic Hatzegopteryx, which, with its wings spread, could practically cover a bus with its 10-meter or 33 feet wingspan. If they are so close to the dinosaurs, it's because they share a common ancestor. At some point in their history, evolution allowed dinosaurs on one side and pterosaurs on the other to hatch. What happened between this common ancestor and the pterosaurs? What are the stages of evolution? What are the different links in the chain that led to the birth of flying vertebrates, and thus to the hatching of pterosaurs? Well, the mystery remains, and the question still unanswered. For the moment, no tangible evidence has been found to fully and scientifically resolve this enigma. Millions of years have passed between the common ancestors and pterosaurs. The physical difference between the two is more than striking, since one is winged and the other probably a small four-legged terrestrial vertebrate. Even so, all the most primitive pterosaurs we know today are well developed, and several species already existed at this time. Evolution was well underway. The stage preceding this phase of evolution is not yet known. For the ancestor of pterosaurs to give rise to true pterosaurs, one species had to have evolved differently from the others. A species that would be closer to pterosaurs in terms of physical appearance or flight capabilities, but which would also have something in common with an exclusively terrestrial species. This key species is a fact we are certain of, but we currently have no fossils that would enable us to piece together the puzzle to establish a sufficiently solid link to find this famous missing link. Nevertheless, one hypothesis seems more serious than the others and could provide a semblance of an explanation for the missing link. If a species of terrestrial vertebrate jumped from tree to tree, or even hovered for a few seconds during its jump, like some flying squirrels for example, then this species would be the keystone species. Some scientists believe that this famous species had a little skin between its legs, and probably lived in tropical forests. This evolution would have enabled it to protect itself from ground-dwelling predators. If this species did indeed live in tropical forests, this would explain why we have found no fossil evidence of its presence on Earth. For fossilization to be possible, several conditions must be met. Immediately after death, the body must be buried under sediment, silt, or sand. Otherwise, the organism will decompose completely. If these initial conditions are met, the skeletal bones will be preserved, the rock will be created, mineralizing the bones, which will become a kind of stone and therefore a fossil. However, these conditions are extremely rare in the forest, which offers us very few fossils. When you think about it, it's quite paradoxical that the environment with the fewest fossils is also the one with the richest biodiversity. Indeed, if we look at today's tropical forests, they are home to the greatest variety of species. So we'll have to wait and see if we can find out more about the origins of pterosaurs. If this question remains unanswered, there are many others about dinosaurs that have been answered. It's time for us to find our dinosaurs and discover the many secrets they have to reveal. We've seen the difference between pterosaurs and dinosaurs, the difference between dinosaurs and marine reptiles, and we've even skimmed the classification of the different dinosaur species. But to really understand dinosaurs, we need to investigate further. A dinosaur is also renowned for being a cold-blooded, ferocious reptile and not very intelligent. But let's dive back into the Mesozoic era in the light of the latest knowledge and find out what life was like for the dinosaurs. The question of dinosaur body temperature often comes up. Were they cold-blooded or warm-blooded? One might think that these animals were cold-blooded. They are reptiles, so logically we'd compare them to the snake or lizard we know. But on the evolutionary scale, dinosaurs fall between birds and reptiles, and birds are warm-blooded. So what's really going on with dinosaurs? Research has been carried out recently, and the results are surprising to say the least. Scientists, including paleobiologist Jasmina Wyman from the California Institute of Technology, relied on technology, infrared spectroscopy, to be more precise, that targets the interactions between molecules and light. In other words, the method uses infrared to quantify the number of waste molecules in fossils. Why is this rate important, and what secret does it hold for us? An animal's metabolism essentially boils down to the efficiency with which it converts oxygen into energy. Warm-blooded or endothermic animals have a high metabolic rate. They need to breathe large quantities of oxygen and eat more to maintain their body temperature. Conversely, ectotherms, or cold-blooded animals such as reptiles, have a more moderate activity level and depend on external conditions to maintain their body temperature. In short, they don't bask in the sun for pleasure, but out of necessity. They have a low metabolic rate. The metabolic rate, i.e. the greater or lesser capacity to convert oxygen into energy for life, is therefore the most convincing indicator of body temperature. The use of oxygen in an organism leaves traces. Technology allows us to detect these traces on fossils. These traces, in the form of bone remnants, can be detected using infrared light. We can now study metabolism from a new angle and calculate the metabolic rate, even in animals that disappeared millions of years ago. Once this rate has been calculated, we still can't determine the body temperature of the fossilized animal. This data must be compared with other verified and validated data to establish a scale of comparison. Based on this scale of magnitude, established on all the animals we know today, and by comparing these data, we can deduce the animal's body temperature. And dinosaurs were warm-blooded. At least most of them were. Of the two major groups of dinosaurs we mentioned earlier, the ornithischians included some cold-blooded specimens, such as the Triceratops. But its large ruff undoubtedly helped to regulate its temperature. This may also be the case for Stegosaurus, with its spine, which also had a low metabolic rate. They were massive but slow herbivores. By contrast, the other group, the Saurischians, the most numerous in terms of species, and above all offspring, like the T-Rex for example, were essentially warm-blooded. Reconstructing the biology and physiology of extinct animals is one of the most difficult things to do in paleontology. This study adds a fundamental piece of the puzzle to our understanding of evolution. Their body temperature sheds light on their lifestyle and needs. The discovery that most dinosaurs were warm-blooded is a small revolution in the world of paleobiology research. We now know that dinosaurs were warm-blooded animals, but they were also oviparous. In other words, their mode of reproduction was through the egg. The amniotic egg has turned biological evolution on its head. Until the beneficial protection provided by the egg, we had to fight to survive. For the first few billion years, life was only able to establish itself in an aquatic environment. Water provided lift. But on land, surrounded only by air, it wasn't the same. The skeleton had to strengthen, solidify, and consolidate. The skin had to become thicker, and the mode of reproduction had to adapt. While some animals, notably reptiles, acclimatized to life on land, reproduction is more complicated. These animals had to lay their eggs in water. The egg is still fragile. It doesn't take much for life to hatch. Without a shell or protective membrane, out of the water it dries out and shatters the life it harbors. Over time, the amniotic egg makes its appearance, and this changes many things. The shell prevents evaporation of the water inside, while allowing gaseous exchanges inside. There's an internal membrane, the amnion, in which a liquid, the amniotic fluid, bathes. This liquid is precious. It protects the future little one. We used to think that dinosaurs were cold-blooded because we compared them to reptiles. To find out how long it takes dinosaurs to incubate eggs, we compared them to the birds they are closest to, which also lay eggs. By comparison, scientists estimated incubation times for dinosaurs at between 11 and 85 days. But this average is about to be called into question by a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and carried out in the USA. Darla Zelenitsky, assistant professor of geosciences at the University of Calgary in Florida, and her team of researchers took a close look at the embryos made available to them. They were able to analyze an egg of Protoceratops, a small herbivorous dinosaur of the Ceratopsian family that lived in the Upper Cretaceous. Its size is comparable to that of a sheep. The embryo studied came from an egg weighing around 200 grams. Another embryo analyzed in the same study was that of a huge fossil of Hypocrosaurus, a duck-billed dinosaur whose egg weighed over 4 kilos. It looks like a basketball. This is hardly surprising when you consider that the size of an adult Hypocrosaurus is estimated at between 9 and 10 meters, or 33 feet long, and its mass at between 2.5 and 4 tons. What will the researchers analyze in the embryos to learn more about the incubation period? Well, they'll be looking at the teeth, as they hold all the answers. Teeth contain a wealth of information. For this study, the scientists are particularly interested in the growth lines of teeth. In fact, they function much like the rings on the stumps of a tree. Analysis of the dentition of these two embryos revealed that the incubation period was much longer than previously thought. This time, dinosaurs are closer to primitive reptiles than to birds. Protoceratops had an incubation period of at least 3 months, while Hypocrosaurus was probably over 6 months. This long period before the eggs hatched is probably one of the possible answers to why they became extinct. Indeed, during the climatic upheavals and the Cretaceous crisis, such a long incubation period may have been a serious handicap to the survival and perpetuation of the species. However, it's not for lack of trying on the part of the parents to protect their eggs and juveniles. After the egg, it's time to talk about parenthood. Were dinosaurs only ferocious, savage, and bloodthirsty beasts? Here again, studies reveal some surprising facts about these animals from another age. Some fossil remains even suggest quite the opposite. Dinosaurs were capable of fiercely defending their young, designing nests, educating, and passing on knowledge. The Protoceratops we mentioned earlier, a small herbivorous dinosaur with a duck-like beak, defended its eggs and nest with great fervor. It's a small herbivore and not well equipped for attack, but it doesn't give up. Using his beak and massive head, we can imagine him trying to ward off this velociraptor. The two adversaries, one fighting for the survival of his young, the other for his own survival, will both die fighting and end up buried by a sandstorm. At least, that's what the remains of their bones, intertwined with each other, have revealed. this story is far from being an isolated one among dinosaurs. Psittacosaurus fossils may also bear witness to the parental and benevolent spirit of dinosaurs. Paleontologists have found a single Psittacosaurus surrounded by 34 small dinosaurs clustered in a circle. Very little is known about their deaths. What we do know is that it was quick and took place in the midst of activity. At least that's what the positions in which the dinosaurs were found suggest. But what really interests us here is the large number of hatchlings and the presence of a single adult. This fossil configuration resembles a kind of dinosaur nursery. An adult plays the role of nanny, protecting the group's young. It's still too early to say, but it's possible that other dinosaur parents may have taken advantage of this nanny's help to fetch food for themselves and their young. Oviraptors, on the other hand, settled into their nests in the manner of the birds we know today, their bodies positioned in the center of the nest, and their arms stretched over the eggs to protect them. Fossils here once again confirm the protective nature of another member of the dinosaur family. In the 1970s, a gigantic fossilized nest was discovered that had been home to hundreds of Maiasaurus specimens over 80 million years ago. Jack Horner, the paleontologist who discovered them, studied the fossils with great care. Their position, their configuration in relation to each other, the estimated age of each one, everything has been examined with a fine-tooth comb. This time, the clues reveal that dinosaurs were not only able to protect eggs, but also to play a protective role after they hatched. Indeed, they also looked after their young once they were born. But how can we be sure? Well, from the fossils found in and around these nests, we can see that there are several young of different ages in the same nest, and traces of fossilized vegetation. This means that Maiasaurs not only fed their babies directly in the nest, but also cared for both newborns and juveniles. Maiasaurus weren't the only ones to care for their young over a long period of time. Scientists have been able to prove through fossil analysis that Psittacosaurus and Massapondylus, for example, were also very involved parents. Among herbivores, we have been able to study footprints. This evidence is invaluable. They tell us how they moved. Did they move slowly or quickly, in groups or alone? But footprint studies can also tell us how the group itself functioned. Indeed, scientists believe that some herbivorous dinosaurs moved in herds to be alert to attacks. Numerous footprints have been found, enabling us to analyze the herd's workings in detail. It has been observed that young dinosaurs were placed among the adults, and that these herds were adept at long seasonal migrations. But there's another area where dinosaurs are just as surprising, that of intelligence. The intelligence of dinosaurs has long been the subject of debate. In the collective imagination, dinosaurs were simple reptiles, a little silly, not very bright, or even a little simple. In other words, they weren't intelligent. Why should we think so? This idea stems from the size of the dinosaur's brain, which was not very large. The most commonly used method of measuring intelligence is to compare brain size to body size, known as the encephalization coefficient. In many dinosaurs, notably the T-Rex, this EQ, or encephalization coefficient, was low. It was therefore thought that dinosaurs were not very intellectually developed, or thoughtful beings. Some of them stood out from the crowd, notably Troodon, reputed for many years to be the most intelligent dinosaur known, with an EQ of 6. Raptors rivaled them with an EQ of 5.8. To give you an element of comparison, humans have an EQ of 7.44. That's the highest. With humans at the top of the chain, it was felt that this method of calculation was a good way of assessing intelligence and making it measurable and comparable. Thanks to the fossils found, scientists were able to calculate this encephalic coefficient by comparing the size of the body with the size of the cavity housing the brain. But this method has since been called into question. Chimpanzees are renowned for their intelligence, as are many great apes, which are capable of creating tools for opening fruit or finding insects in stumps or anthills. They are also able to communicate and learn. Numerous experiments have been carried out, revealing the surprising abilities of these animals. However, if we look at the EQ, the chimpanzee would be an idiot, as it barely reaches 2.49. The limitations of this method are clearly evident. Raptors and Troodons may have been highly intelligent, but that doesn't mean that others weren't. Still less that we should generalize this lack of intelligence about all dinosaurs. Some might even surprise you. The Tyrannosaurus, for example, has long been lodged in the idiot category, and this is far from the case. In fact, Brazilian neuroscientist Susanna Herculano Hazel has managed to count the number of neurons in the Tyrannosaurus brain. It turns out that he had no less than 3 billion. Admittedly, that's fewer than the human brain's 80 billion neurons, but it still puts it somewhere between the chimpanzee and the baboon. This means that the T-Rex was at least as intelligent as today's primates. How did the scientists manage to count the neurons without having the dinosaur's brain? While bones fossilize, brains do not. Susanna relied on a law of scale. This law of scale has been consolidated year after year through research, studies, and the discovery of a very large number of animals. Thanks to this scale, which has been greatly enriched in recent years in terms of data, we know that in birds from the smallest hummingbird to the largest ostrich, via the hen and the eagle, the number of neurons is directly linked to the mass of the brain, itself directly linked to the mass of the body. In other words, we can know the number of neurons per gram of brain. This calculation is true for birds, but also for reptiles and crocodiles. The scale is different, but works for all of them. The statistical analyses carried out by the researcher show that for theropods, the relationship between body mass and brain mass follows the same law as for birds. This similarity could perhaps be explained by the fact that modern birds are descended from dinosaurs. What's certain in any case is that the T-Rex was far from stupid. It would have been capable not only of making tools, but also of passing on its knowledge. This process and the various data collected also allow us to update our knowledge in another area. Age is closely linked to the number of neurons. In other words, we can estimate the lifespan of different dinosaur species. We also know, based on what we've seen in reptiles, mammals, and birds today, that larger animals generally live longer, and that carnivores often have shorter lives than herbivores. While some dinosaurs measuring less than a meter only live for 5 or 6 years, dinosaurs such as the Brontosaurus, for example, could have lived for almost 80 years. As for the T-Rex, its life expectancy is estimated at between 25 and 40 years. Given its longevity and intelligence, the Tyrannosaurus could well have passed on its knowledge to its descendants. But it's not only in the field of dinosaur intelligence that we've strayed from the truth, either through lack of knowledge or simply by incorporating received ideas as real facts. Dinosaurs have a bad image. They're ferocious, aggressive, and bloodthirsty. As you can imagine, the truth is far more complex than that. It's the brain of the Patagotitan antiquus that may just change the way people think about the subject. Dinosaurs could also be social animals. The remains of Patagotitan antiquus were unearthed a long time ago. They were preserved in the laboratories of the University of Bristol and hadn't been studied since, at least not with today's technology. The scanner and various 3D imaging tools made it possible to produce a cast and shed light on the inner ear. They observed the existence of 2 large floccular lobes. Located at the back of the brain, they play an important role in balance. Their large size in this dinosaur suggests that it was probably bipedal, contrary to what was previously thought. The researchers were also able to reconstruct the anatomy of the inner ears of Patagotitan and compare them with those of other dinosaurs. According to them, its hearing frequency was relatively high, enabling it to hear the sounds and cries emitted by various animals, including those of its fellow dinosaurs. A clue to possible sound-driven social interactions. So dinosaurs were intelligent and could even be social animals. We've talked about species diversity, lifestyle, reproduction, behavior, and even intelligence. But we've forgotten to talk about their habitat. Where do dinosaurs live? On Pangaea. Yes, but after that? Did they only survive in the middle of a vast swamp? What were the different environments inhabited by dinosaurs? Dinosaurs lived all over the Earth, but some lived in very specific regions, as is the case today for many of our modern-day animals. In the course of their research, paleontologists have been able to create maps of the world by imagining where dinosaurs might have lived. They draw on their knowledge of dinosaurs, animals, and biology, and on their interpretation of the remains and fossils found. These maps evolve over the millennia, following new geographical layouts and climatic changes, for example. The Triassic period, between 252 and 201 million years ago, was marked not only by the birth of the dinosaurs, but also by a very particular configuration of the Earth. Our planet is made up of a single continent, a single unique landmass, Pangaea. Dinosaurs cohabited and evolved on this unique land, yet some species never met. If the land is unique, the climate is not. Let's start at the center of Pangaea. Here it would appear that the interior was completely dry, enclosed behind massive mountain ranges that blocked out all moisture. The climate is almost desert-like. Near the equator, the climate is quite different, with lush, humid tropical forests. These may resemble the jungles found in the Amazon, for example. Other regions are more temperate. In short, the biotope is very different from one place to another on Pangaea. Each species has made its home in an environment suited to its own needs. Each species is equipped to adapt to the specific conditions of its environment. It would therefore be wrong to claim that all dinosaurs lived in swamps or rainforests. Dinosaur fossils have been found in areas thought to have been lake shores, lagoons, swamps, deserts, temperate forests, savannas, and plains. Dinosaurs occupied every one of these environments. Another surprising fact: their shelter. We always imagine dinosaurs near a body of water bordered by a jungle, or in the middle of a plain with mountains in the background. But dinosaurs, or at least some of them, were capable of making their own shelters. In 2007, paleontologists found fossils in an astonishing place, at least according to what we knew until then. The remains of 3 dinosaurs, 1 adult and 2 juveniles, were found in the chamber of a burrow. This means that the dinosaur had dug a tunnel more than 2 meters long, and at its deepest point had created a chamber in which its 2 young lived. This time, the fossils reveal a burrowing dinosaur. It's an Argentinosaurus cubicularis. This herbivore was equipped not only to run, but also to dig. The snout is robust, with fused premaxillae. The shoulder blade is strong, and the vertebrae near the pelvis are fused. So this little dinosaur seems well equipped to dig energetically. But its 2 long legs probably also made it a fast runner. As you can see, dinosaurs are truly amazing animals, and with each new discovery, they never cease to amaze us. Yet 66 million years ago, these impressive charismatic creatures disappeared from our planet. Let's take a look back at how long they occupied the Earth and find out more about their extinction. Dinosaurs reigned supreme on Earth for over 165 million years. But is it really a reign at all? Did dinosaurs live alone on Earth during this long Mesozoic period? Dinosaurs reigned for 165 million years and diversified greatly. In fact, there were a great many dinosaurs roaming the continent. There were herbivores and carnivores, hunters, gatherers, burrowers, bipeds, quadrupeds, feathered and scaled, small and fast, heavy and slow, big and long. In short, the dinosaur family grew and developed. Today, some 1,200 species are known to us from fossil finds, but these are only the species that, thanks to a great deal of luck, have left fossils behind to testify to their presence. The vast majority have left no trace of their passage, simply because the conditions for fossilization were not present. This figure is therefore only a sample of the number of species that actually existed. If dinosaurs were numerous and occupied much of the continent, were they the kings of the Mesozoic? Were they the only species to live on Earth? We already know that marine reptiles and pterosaurs, the flying reptiles, were also present. But they weren't the only contemporaries of the dinosaurs. One might think that at the time of the land of the dinosaurs, mammals had not been able to find their place, that they had waited until after the Great Extinction to thrive. Researchers now claim that this is not quite true. Dinosaurs and mammals, or more precisely their ancestors, the mammaliforms, appeared at virtually the same time. In fact, Mesozoic mammals were far more diverse than previously thought. In fact, there were quite a few of them living alongside the dinosaurs. Some mammals were, of course, the prey of the most powerful or fastest carnivorous dinosaurs. But the predator-prey relationship wasn't always as straightforward as you might think. The discovery of one fossil in particular proves that not all mammals were at the mercy of the dinosaurs. Quite the contrary. Rhinoceros gigantic is a large mammal from the Mesozoic era, probably the largest of its time. Paleontologists have studied a fossil of this specimen found in present-day China. To understand the lifestyle and diet of this Rhinoceros gigantic, paleobiologists analyzed its stomach contents, i.e. the traces of elements still present in its stomach. After studying the stomach contents, it turned out to be the remains of a Patagotitan and other reptiles. This mammal was therefore a carnivore, a good shoemaker, and didn't hesitate to take on dinosaurs. This example of carnivores should not, however, be taken as representative of the majority. Before the extinction of the dinosaurs, mammals were mostly nocturnal and insectivorous. Perhaps this is what enabled them to survive the crisis that marked the end of the Cretaceous. David Grossnickel, a researcher at the University of Washington in the USA, has carried out a number of studies on the subject. According to the work carried out by his team, mammals underwent 3 major evolutionary radiations over the course of their history. This enabled them to adapt to their environment and new ecological niches. They prospered and diversified. The new species that appeared were able to climb, slide, or dig burrows. Their diet shifted towards meat, leaves, and crustaceans, and at least 2 of these evolutionary radiations would have occurred, one at the beginning of the Jurassic, between 190 and 163 million years ago, and the other during the Upper Cretaceous, around 90 million years ago, at a time when dinosaurs were still thriving on Earth. Dinosaurs, too, underwent significant biological evolution and diversification. We've clearly seen great diversification and species evolution, both physically and in terms of intellectual and social capacities. If both families are thriving, this indicates that cohabitation between these 2 large groups was possible. Yet we are now approaching the end of the dinosaurs. 66 million years ago, they finally disappeared. Are mammals to blame? Is it a failure of evolution? In the collective imagination, all dinosaurs died out suddenly when this group of species was at its peak. They disappeared following an unprecedented cataclysm. So many errors in so few sentences. No, the dinosaurs didn't all disappear. No, not at their peak. And no, not suddenly. And finally, no, not following an unprecedented cataclysm. Mass extinctions have been numerous. The Tertiary Cretaceous crisis was significant, with 50% of species extinct. But nothing like the Permian Triassic crisis, which wiped out nearly 95% of the Earth's species. Secondly, none of these extinctions were so sudden and violent as to wipe out all species in just a few days. They were long periods of crisis, extending over thousands or even millions of years. Changes in temperature, very hot or very cold, changes in air composition, or even changes in ocean acidity, if they are spread over the whole globe and are too rapid for living beings to adapt, then lead to the onset of a crisis. It's gradual, but the impact is inevitable. Thousands of species are doomed to extinction. Scientists accept that the Cretaceous crisis had several origins. As we saw with the crisis at the end of the Permian, the causes of these crises are often multifaceted and marked by changes on a global scale. Traces of very strong volcanic activity can be found in the traps of the Deccan in present-day India. But during the same period, 65 million years ago, there was another major event that forever marked the history of our planet. A meteorite impacted the Earth in Mexico at Chicxulub. The meteorite measured between 10 and 80 kilometers, or between 6 and 50 miles in diameter. An impact with a celestial object of such magnitude and speed causes irreparable damage and impacts all ecosystems. Permanent volcanic eruptions and the dust raised by the meteorite upset the order of things. The opaque atmosphere would have limited the sun's rays. Plants could no longer benefit from photosynthesis, their vital source of energy. Herbivores without vegetation were deprived of food and died in turn. Then came the carnivores, who also had no food to survive on. According to most scientific data, this extinction occurred very rapidly, in geological terms. The immediate and short-term effects of the impact, such as global fires, tsunamis, a prolonged night caused by aerosols and soot in the atmosphere, and a drastic drop in temperatures, are thought to have been catastrophic for many forms of life. This was followed by a long-term greenhouse effect due to the gases released on impact, causing global warming. The exact speed of the extinction is still debated, but many studies suggest that it could have taken place within a few years to several thousand years after the impact. Some species survived the upheaval. For example, small insectivorous animals, scavengers, tortoises, sharks, crocodiles, and many others survived. All this took place 66 million years ago, during the heyday of the dinosaurs. Well, not quite their heyday. In fact, it turns out that numerous studies carried out at the end of the Cretaceous period reveal that dinosaurs were in decline. Numbers, particularly of large specimens, were falling dramatically. Diversity was also declining. All this means that their demise was probably irretrievable. The explanation is still unclear. Some scientists believe that the fragmentation of the continents following the breakup of Pangaea worked to their disadvantage. Climate change modifying the climate and flora, rising sea levels, and other phenomena put large animals at a disadvantage in these smaller spaces. The emergence and diversification of flowering plants, notably angiosperms, may also have altered terrestrial ecosystems. While some dinosaurs were able to adapt to these new food sources, others, particularly the large specialized herbivores, may have been disadvantaged. However, it would be completely wrong to say that dinosaurs have disappeared. In fact, dinosaurs have not completely disappeared. That's right, their descendants still live among us, and they have managed to establish themselves in the four corners of the world with great ease. We meet many of them every day, without even imagining that their history goes so far back in time. I'm talking about birds. Indeed, the theropod family has survived the crisis. Remember, we talked about this family when we discussed the classification of dinosaurs? Theropods include tyrannosaurs, velociraptors, allosaurs, and even birds. Another important nuance. Birds are not representatives of the dinosaurs as you might think, but dinosaurs in their own right, forming one of the theropod families. The story of the dinosaurs is decidedly longer than we could have imagined, and far more complex than we thought. They are extraordinary animals whose study continues to surprise us to this day. Each new discovery is a small paleontological or biological revolution. So there's no end in sight to our journey into the land of the dinosaurs. We still have much to learn from these animals of another age.